The life of a missionary. What's it like? And how, for those of us at home in Des Moines, how can we help? That's coming up today live on The View from a Pew on 99.3 KTIA, Iowa.
Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Let's get it started. Ha! Let's get it started in here. Yeah.
Let's get it started in here.
Welcome to The View from a Pew, a conversation among Christians who are out to grow their faith by asking the simple questions, the tough questions, and the stuff you really wish your pastor would talk about. Come on now, let's reason together. It's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. That's 855-244-0077. Now, here's your host, J. Michael McCoy.
Welcome. It is a few minutes after 3 o'clock Central Daylight Time. If you're in Iowa, as we are, it is a little bit after 3 o'clock, and we thank you for joining us on this 9th day of October in the Lord's year. Now, if you're a Gentile, it's 2012, and if you're Jewish, then it's 5773, right? And
Correct.
When's the New Year? Because you're going to have to make sure I don't screw that up. It was just like a couple of weeks ago, right?
Right, yeah.
The Jewish New Year?
Right.
Okay, you're in charge of religious holidays.
Okay.
So you just have to keep up with that. Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat. Army Brad in the studio today, along with Father Tattoo back at the production helm. And I want to welcome my special guests today, Stephen and Abby Nelms. And no, I didn't stutter. Her name is Abby. A-B-Y? Would that be the correct spelling? Okay. And they are missionaries, and I'm going to give you their website up front. Now, remember, if you click on, if you're watching this online, you're going to have to open up another window, because if you just put this in, I'll go away, and that'll make me sad, and I'll cry. So it's givelifeproject.com. givelifeproject.com. And that's their website. And by the way, the photography on this website is just absolutely spectacular, and that is Abby's work. She, in a previous, well, you still are a professional photographer.
Yes.
You just don't get paid for it now.
No, I don't.
But you were a professional photographer.
Yes.
Some amazing.
Thank
You don't
you.
set up lighting or anything like that, do you?
No, all natural lighting in Africa.
It's really some good stuff. Is the lighting different in Africa than it is in America?
That's a little brighter.
Really?
Well, not really.
Oh, okay. Well, I thought maybe, pollution or something.
Well,
That
it's a little bit clearer, yes.
Closer to the
Because
equator.
Yeah,
so.
not
Okay.
as much pollution.
And they are their husband and wife. I guess the Stephen and Abby gave that away. Mm-hmm. And they have 3 children, 4, 2, and 1.
Yes.
4, 3, and 1.
4, 3, and 1.
Mm-hmm.
4, 3, 1. What happened to 2?
Yeah. Took a little break.
And I've never heard this term before in my entire life. Did anybody else hear this term, Irish twins? They have 2 children born in the same year, but they're not twins.
No, one was just born 9 months after the other one. So
I understand. I'm a father, and we won't get into that. And I want to thank my daughter, Andrea, who met you guys at her church, family-friendly church in Ankeny.
First Family.
First Family. It used to be
Which is
called
friendly.
Yeah, for families.
Yes.
And it's the first one.
Exactly.
And it's in Ankeny, so it's first. Okay. And you guys were there on Sunday.
Yes.
And what brought you to their church?
Well, they've been really a part recently of what we have been doing over in Zambia. Their church sent over a team and put up a water borehole where we built a school in the village. So they had a real instrumental part in not only helping to fund it, but actually physically on the ground building it. So we kind of went there to report and kind of put a face to the name and thank them. And it was nice. It was good to meet them. Really the first time we had been there. So
now, help me. You have to talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old sometime.
Okay.
I know where North Africa is because I'm familiar with the Middle East.
Yeah.
Where is Zambia from, like Libya?
All right, Zambia is sub-Saharan Africa, just north of South Africa, kind of nestled between, to the north, Tanzania and DRC, Democratic Republic of Congo, and then to the east you have Malawi, and then you have Botswana underneath to the southwest, I think it would be, and So it's landlocked in the bottom part of sub-Saharan Africa, just above South Africa.
So there's no beachfront property.
No,
Okay.
unfortunately.
Now, why did you choose Zambia?
Well, I started going to Zambia in 2003 with another organization called Gospel Link, and that was actually founded by my father. So he allowed me to go. I went over there and led a lot of short-term teams over there to Zambia. They don't just work in Zambia, but Zambia and a bunch of other places. But Zambia was obviously something that was close to my heart, and also it was an open door, someplace that we knew we had some connections and some work that was already laid on the ground, kind of a strategy-wise, it was a good place to start. As for African countries, it's pretty chill, pretty low-key there. It's not one of the higher tension areas. So we felt like for starting our project, it was a ideal place to begin. Obviously, a lot of need there. It's still sub-Saharan Africa. The average person makes less than $2 a day, according to the World Bank. It was.
See, Dan, you're not the least paid in the whole world. See, there's proof.
Yeah, it's according to the World Bank, it was the highest amount of the population below the international poverty line, something like over 80% of the population. So there was a lot of need there for the type of work we were going to be doing.
Now, your organization is called the Give Life Project. Mm-hmm. Tell me how that was birthed. Tell me where that comes from. He's looking at you, A.B.
I know.
Oh, sorry. I'm the talker in the relationship.
That's okay. He can do all the talking.
That's a good thing for you to direct her to her. That's good. Unless she directs to me, we'll see.
Well, maybe you can add a little bit. We just sort of felt like we have a purpose to our logo, or we give help, give hope, and give life to those that are in desperate need. And there's a lot of desperate need in Zambia, so we figured, we're just giving life. We're giving life in more than one way. Life with a capital L, capital H for hope. So that's how we thought of that name.
Technically, we don't give life, but we know who does, and
right.
We want to introduce them to that. And we do feel that Jesus Christ is the foundation for development. We feel like he's the base. I mean, he really is something that we can build our life upon, and we want to give people hope and give them help along those lines. So,
and I know you talked about this a little bit before because you went down there with your dad. But what we know what your dad's inspiration was, because he brought you down there. He had the vision first. But what inspired you to follow?
Well, the difference, I think, with us, our organization is not maybe what you would call traditionally evangelistic, in the sense that was our main thrust.
You got some Mormons hanging around, or what?
Not exactly. We do have a Jehovah's Witness who works for us, though.
There you go.
Not quite Mormons, but
I have to work around Presbyterians, so I understand.
So you understand.
Yeah.
But basically what that means is from the very beginning, when you start going to different places in the world, you notice the overwhelming need. And then you start as a Christian and as let's just say a follower of Christ, you start to, because of compassion, you start to see that need. And you start to realize that there is a call and an obligation, or at least an inspiration, a motivation to do something about it. And so our organization focuses, we're very interested in the gospel in that traditional sense, but we just feel that it's much broader. Okay, so we feel the gospel touches all different facets of life. So it should make a difference in every area of life. If we're talking about physical or emotional or spiritual or psychological or whatever it is, the gospel of Jesus Christ, it does touch those areas. It's not just about what we're doing on Sunday or planting churches in the traditional sense, though we're not against that. But our focus is to see the gospel changing every area of life, giving people hope, helping them reach their potential.
Stephen and A.B. Nelms is in the studio with us today. Their website is givelifeproject.com. You might, there it is right there on the screen, and I'm sure that Bob has put it on the web and on the chat. They are missionaries in the country of Zambia. Give me an idea about what a Wednesday's like in your life. You have 3 babies, so you live in the country of Zambia, and what community?
We live in a little town. It's about a mile long in length, and then it goes out into more bush areas and village areas. For me, it's a little bit different than for Stephen because obviously I'm a mom and a wife, and Wednesdays is my going out day, actually.
Oh, okay.
So in the morning, I go out to the village, and we work in a specific village called Shishiko Village. And
Is that the village you live in?
No, we live just outside. There's lots of villages there. We live about 7 kilometers, I don't know, miles. What's that?
That's fine.
Right outside.
It's a small town, so it's not quite the village.
There's actual houses, and in the village, it's more like little tiny houses and huts, and what you would imagine a typical African village would be like.
Grass roof, thatched roof type of village.
Okay.
So we go out and we have just a gathering of ladies. I have about 15 to 20 women. We meet right under a mulberry tree. It's very beautiful, and we just sit on these reed mats, and we have some it's a Bible study essentially, but we do more than that. We study different things and
Practical things. Yeah.
What's the language?
It's there's lots of different dialects. What is it in?
The main ones are Nyanja, Bimba, Tonga, but we live in a village where they speak Soli, and then overall in Zambia they speak English. The national language, the trade language is English. So, though it's not perfect English usually, or it's broken, and it's also British. It's British English because they were a British colony. So, but in most cases we can communicate via
still
English.
Communicate, right?
Yeah. So, but they speak. There's like 73 or 76 tribes in Zambia. So. There's a lot of dialects.
Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. You say there's 70 tribes in Zambia. What does that mean to a guy living in Iowa? How would you? Are those states? Are those nationalities?
They would be more like ethnicities. Those
so the
tribes
Polacks are over there, and the Chinese are over here, and the Germans are over here.
But not that diverse. You have tribes that pre-colonialism, before Africa was divided even into countries the way we see them today. Like, for instance, Zambia used to be part of Rhodesia, and it wasn't always Zambia. But so you have tribes from different places that have migrated over the course of hundreds of years. And so these tribes are, in many ways, very similar, but maybe having some of their own cultures, their own language, or own variations in language, slightly different. But very similar. They're not as diverse as you might say, like a Chinese and an American or something like that. They're
But
not
a lot like Dutch and German then.
Yes, they're coming from some same lineage, but maybe from different parts of Africa sometimes.
Maybe just their customs vary a little bit.
And let me state,
like
I'm
that.
not an anthropologist, so I'm not maybe giving you all of the,
I think
the
you're doing
perfect
great.
explanations of this. So don't look it up.
Do they wear clothing, or do they wear loincloths?
Yeah, they wear clothing unless they're bathing, and then they don't.
Okay, so they
It's very
look
different
like
clothing.
us.
Yeah, mostly. I mean, they're very poor, so that whatever they can get their hands on. Boys can be wearing pink all day long. It doesn't matter. That stuff doesn't really matter as long as it's covering up.
And you see actually a lot of American clothes, because obviously a lot of the ones that are donated end up over there, and then they're resold, interestingly enough. But so you do have, maybe in past times you would have had a lot more of what you would expect, like a African villager wearing a loincloth. But in the modern world today, it's not like that.
They wear clothes. They
very
have
poor, lots of holes, and doesn't
Tattered.
fit right, and shoes
How
that doesn't
long have
matter
you
what
been
size
there?
they are. And
about 3 years.
3 years.
I've lived there.
My guests today are Steve and Abby Nelms. They are missionaries in Zambia, and their website is givelifeproject.com. And when we come back, we're going to talk about what's different now, 3 years later, than when they got there, and what were some of the biggest surprises that they encountered that they never thought would be a part of a mission for Jesus Christ. I'm J. Michael McCoy. If I haven't told you lately, thanks for listening. I love this job, and I couldn't do it without you. Right here on The Truth. That's right, it's The Truth. 99.3 KTIA, Iowa. Powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
Leach, owner and general manager of Service Legends. I brought along a couple of the home comfort heroes.
Hi, I'm Tammy Wells.
I am Nick Wonderscheid.
I am administrative manager
I am the senior technician
from Service Legends.
It seems like every good thing, when you feel it to the bone that it's good, there's a lot of hard work put behind it. I don't think that you can fake it and have it turn out good.
You know, if we seem like, okay, that's just weird, it's just a furnace, why would you believe so deeply in a furnace? It's not just that, you know, we want to show the world that you can have good service.
Yeah, I mean, it's got to be, it's your home.
You know, it's built into our daily trainings, it's built into our culture, that we're going to do whatever it takes to have each client say they love us, period.
That's why we spend all the hours in the training that we do. And if we guarantee it's going to be a good experience for you, or else it's free, what type of work do you think we're going to do?
There is a guarantee.
Temperature selection guarantee, fixed right or it's free guarantee, comfort guarantee, best value guarantee. All of these guarantees hold us accountable to ensuring that we exceed your expectations. And if for whatever reason we'd fail and we can't make it right, we guarantee all of those guarantees with a 100% money back guarantee.
I mean, if you don't think that your technician can fix it right, are you going to say that to a client? No.
You don't have to worry about having a technician come to your house.
We drug test, background check all of our team members. We put safe people in your home. Each and every one of our service techs, 400 hours a year in training.
You tell it the minute they walk in the door. They know what they're doing, they've done their homework, and they actually truly care about what you want.
Because at the end of the day, you're the person that makes sure I have a job.
They're going to be listening. They're going to want to know what your challenges are. Then they're going to come and give you options, and you get to choose.
If I'm there to help and I make it easy and painless, I did my job right that day.
Well, when it comes to your comfort, safety, and your family, you know, you don't necessarily go buy the most expensive, but you get the most bang for your buck.
Oh, it's worth it, because there's a lot of people that will find a way to get it to work right now and then leave and then come back, charge you again, and the cycle just repeats itself. So when I'm out there looking at the furnace, I want to find why it failed today. How can we change the part today with something that you're not going to have to worry about? Is it worth changing the part today? I mean, you can put a lot of money into a furnace. I can fix parts all day. There's good job security in that for me. But is it the right thing for you?
I get a lot of the phone calls of after the technicians are there. They're just in awe. They're like, wow, you guys are great. I mean, I don't even know what to say. You guys are great. Everything you did was perfect. It was great.
Keep going though, I like this.
Just give us a try. I'm gonna take all the risk.
I've got the time to make this right. I've got the support to make it right.
Just check us out.
And if you don't see the value in what we do,
I mean, fixed right or it's free or 100% money back.
enough said.
Have you ever been told you're not a good enough Christian? Well, we have too. Join the conversation. Call 855-244-0077. Now here's your host, president of the Not a Good Enough Christian Club, J. Michael McCoy.
21 minutes after the 3 o'clock hour, Central Daylight Time, on the 9th day of October in the Lord's year 2012. Don't forget, today at the top of the hour, 4 o'clock, it's the Salem Radio Network, and then show 7 of True Blue, starring Michael Mudloff with co-host Chris Roloff. That's coming up in the 4 to 4:30 hour here on 99.3 KTIA. My guests today are Stephen and Abby Nelms, and I am pronouncing that correctly. I'm kind of famous for botching names.
Okay, you're doing good.
That's
Thank
an
you.
easy one to botch. So.
Yeah, well, actually, the harder ones I don't botch so much. It's the simple ones I can never. Phyllis is a tough word, so I'm glad you're not Phyllis, because I can't say Phyllis very well without making my long. Their website is givelifeproject.com. Army Brad in the studio today, as well as Bob Montserrat, the cat in the hat, watching the chat, and of course, Mr. Know-It-All, Father Tattoo, in the production studio. Are you learning anything today, or probably not, because you know it all?
Sure.
You are learning something today?
I'm listening to a great story about missionaries.
Okay.
I mean, what was I supposed to learn? We haven't talked about theology.
So you haven't really learned anything?
I've learned what they're doing, but I mean, I don't.
Oh.
It depends on what is, Mac.
He's the smartest guy in the room. Just ask him. All right.
No, just ask you. I would tell you I'm the stupidest guy here.
Oh, okay.
Just to contradict you.
Now, Steve and Abby have been in Zambia for 3 years. Here, I love to ask this question. So, whatever you expected a part of this to be like before you ever got there. Of course, you were there before.
Visiting.
You
may think you know until you live there.
Okay, so what was the biggest surprise? What was if I had known that?
Talk about culture. Maybe.
Yeah, for me it was we just, as a couple, we just love culture. We think we love culture and visiting different places and, the different colors and, flavors and the experience of it all. And when we got there, immediately we understood that was totally not what this was about. And the culture, in essence, was more of your ethics and your morals and, what you believe. So they're a shame and honor culture. We're a right and wrong culture. So immediately there was a clash.
Back up. Talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old. They're a shame and honor?
Right. And
what does that mean?
Eastern culture is typically more shame and honor based, meaning truth may be relative sometime, or right and wrong is not always black and white, because shame and honor have a part to play there. So you might not do what's right in a situation the way we would see it because it might bring shame to someone. So it's a completely different way of looking at something, whereas Americans, we're right and wrong. It's like, look, this is right or this is wrong. And so this is...
Father Tattoo, I got it. Because you're not going to vote for president, that brings shame on you.
No,
actually, that's right, isn't it?
Actually, on my blogs,
because it's right or wrong. We know it's wrong that you don't vote, but now in Eastern culture, we bring shame. And were you to vote, then it would bring honor.
On a rebelscause.com, there's a great little blog called the Rebel Blogs. You can read my response to what you just said.
Oh, okay.
And you can learn something. It'd be great.
I'd love to learn something. So it's a shame and honor. Now, when I hear that, I hear abuse. I hear abuse against women. I hear abuse against children. Is that right?
Yeah, pretty right on.
That's definitely there. There's a lot more to it, but that's definitely something that happens a lot. And of course, not just the shame and honor, but okay, you have shame and honor culture, and then you add to that poverty, you add to that aid dependency, you add to that AIDS. AIDS. Okay. AIDS. There's 12 million orphans in sub-Saharan Africa just due to AIDS. So, I mean, that's definitely an issue. But you have in Zambia, I think like 1 in 4 people are HIV positive, or 2 in 5, or something. It's something like that. It's a lot. But you add all of these things to a shame and honor culture, and you just end up with sometimes a mess. And we have a mess here, don't get me wrong, but a different kind of mess in that way.
Tell me about that. That's a great comment. I want you to unpack that. You said we have it here too. Yeah. What do we have here?
Well, let me take a step back and put an angle on that, okay? So when we look at issues of development, I have kind of a theory I've been working on, which I'm trying to put this together in a package to explain my statement. But my theory is that one of the reasons why we are developed in the West, not just America, but other Western type countries, is that sometime back in our history, you saw Judeo-Christian principles become part of the fabric of society. So Judeo-Christian principles became who we are. And you can see those. We don't call them in the West anymore Judeo-Christian. Some people do, but some people don't. We call them other things, and we feel that we just came up with these things. But the truth is that the church was institutionalized, and a lot of the values that we have came from God's Word. Now, I believe that's a foundation for development. If you put that kind of value system in place, and then you add to that things like education and medical advancement and good leadership and economic opportunity, then you have what can lead to growth and sustainable development. Now, if you look at your cultures that are not Judeo-Christian, which is most of Africa and a lot of other places in the world that are some of the poorest places in the world, they're not Judeo-Christian.
What are they? The voodoo?
Well, they come from more pagan backgrounds. So in Africa, you've got a lot of witchcraft, a lot of pagan type backgrounds. It's not Judeo-Christian in any sense, okay? So with that foundation, it's just interesting to compare those two dynamics and see how that the nations which have those kind of backgrounds, in many cases, are the nations that are developed and prosperous and growing. Now you take America. In America today, and this is probably off topic, but I do believe we are reversing that. I do believe we are going away from that. We're just basically dropping all of that Judeo-Christian thought.
Right.
And because of that, I think we're going to see that we're going to go the wrong direction. Our society is not growing and thriving. It's crumbling and falling apart.
You see it right now.
Yeah, you see it everywhere. If you look around, you see it.
So
I do believe that.
Do you think, Stephen, that you see it through a different lens because of living part-time or, I guess, full-time in Zambia?
That's an interesting question. I don't know if it's because of Zambia. Definitely we see development and the work that we're doing through a different lens being on the ground than what we thought when we left. You know, when we went there, the original question you were asking is, yes, we see things much differently than when we left here, now that we've been there. Looking back to here, the way we see things here, I would say has more to do just with our lens as followers of Christ, maybe our understanding of God's kingdom and that sort of thing. I think it's clear them who have eyes to see can see it.
How has your compassion changed from the first you got there, or even your expectations before you went there and today?
I can talk about compassion.
Yeah.
That's kind of a sad one, actually. You would think the opposite, but when you go with your heart filled with compassion, you know, and you just want to do everything that you possibly can for everybody around you. But eventually, sadly, but it's the truth. You start just getting used to everything that's going on around you, and you're driving down the road and you see little kids by themselves, you know, 2-3-year-olds just walking by themselves, or even younger kids holding, you know, because they carry their babies on their back, just out in the open with nobody watching them, and you just start getting so used to that you forget, and you become actually less compassionate, and you have to sort of bring yourself back to, oh my goodness, you know, what am I doing? I need to be more intentional, and
you need to be reminded.
Okay, now you said kids out there on their own. What is there to fear for those kids?
Well, so much. People there are not very, if they're walking on the road, I think that they actually do get hit by cars quite a bit.
It's hard to explain this.
Yeah.
Their culture, our culture is very family oriented in the sense of nurturing and protecting a child, and theirs is not. Like, there's a funny story we have. When the first time before we moved to Africa, we were visiting. We went and took a group over there. We actually went to Tanzania and to Zambia at different times, and we had a young, like a newborn at that time, 6-month-old. And I remember, she could tell you more personally, but a lot of the women that we visited while we were there, because we left the babies in the U.S. with grandparents, and the women were just dumbfounded. I mean, they just were, they couldn't understand or fathom.
Yeah, they were blown away.
How do you leave a 6-month child? Oh, looking at her like she's a horrible mother, you know, because we were going for 2 weeks and we didn't want to bring the 6-month-old child to that part of the world, one, because of just all the things we had to do, but two, because of the possibility of getting sick and the travel. But the women there were just like, they couldn't believe it, you know, like, how can you do that? Well, the interesting thing there is what we've experienced is that from 1 or 0 to 3, a baby will not even leave its mother. I mean, it will be on the back continually until 3 years old. But then about 3 years old, it's like, oh, this baby's grown up now, and the 5-year-old daughter can watch the baby all day long while we go out and do whatever we have to do. It's just a different way of thinking, whereas where in America, we would never leave a 3-year-old home alone all day, or with even a 5 or a 7-year-old. That's unbelievable. And like the road we live off of, the cars go down about 100 kilometers an hour.
Holy Toledo.
You know, kilometers is not as fast as miles in that sense, but we're talking about 60, 70 miles an hour, and there's little 3, 4, 5-year-olds walking along the
yeah, some are walking to school.
I mean, just walking along the road at that, just walking to school.
Some are walking, like,
or
what,
whatever.
5 kilometers, 7 kilometers, 8 to school, just, you know, to find that your teacher didn't come.
And that's just an example.
Just yeah.
You know, over there, death is such a part of life, so everybody loses children or parents or brothers or sisters or all the time. And death, they're just not affected by it. I mean,
it's just commonplace.
It's just common. I mean, it should be devastating, and it is in a sense, but it's not anything unusual. it just happens all the time.
And going back to something like what you could fear, they do a lot of cooking outside and fires and things, and the children are just out there. So there's numerous times we've had deaths just because of somebody burned, a little child. Or
I'll tell you, there's not a week that goes by in the village where there's not a funeral. Not one.
How many people in the village?
3,500, and there is at least one funeral every week. It's pretty unbelievable.
Now, we only have a minute before the break, but how do they perceive you? Who are you to them?
Oh, we should ask them. No.
I can't.
It would be nice, although they all have cell phones these days.
All of you in Zambia, call in 1-855-244-0007.
They view us, Zambia has had missionary presence for a long time. David Livingston was there, a very famous missionary, found Victoria Falls, explored that whole region. He was in Zambia. His heart is buried in Zambia, actually. But they've had missionaries for a long time. They generally like missionaries in general. Too many generals there, but I think it all comes down to how you interact with them. We try to really respect their culture. We try to really be open and part of it.
Mm-hmm. We eat what they eat, wear what they wear.
Yeah, we really try to go in and be sensitive and be interested. And we are interested, actually.
Do you carry your babies on your back?
I do.
We do.
Wow. Okay, we're going to take our next break. GiveLifeProject.com. That's the website, and you can find out how you can support these guys. It takes prayer, and it takes passion, and it takes money to be on a trip like this. So I hope you'll go there and check it out. And by the way, A.B. Takes all the pictures on the website, so check it out. We're coming back. Steve and A.B. Nelms, missionaries in Zambia, and we'll be back in just a minute right here live on KTIA, Iowa.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Feeling alone? God knows and He understands. Chat now with someone who cares at groundwire.net.
The point is, we are free now to do what we could never do before, and that is love and obey Christ and answer to Him, our Savior, rather than answer to someone else on this earth who sets Him up as your authority. You and I answer to Christ.
And because of Jesus Christ, the gospel was preached, and you and I are blessed today because of Abraham. Did you know that? We're blessed.
Experience Truth, 99.3 FM.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live. If you sit in the back pew or the front pew, it's your voice we want to hear. The phone lines are open, so call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
3:38, 22 before the top, and Salem Radio Network News at the top of the hour, and then 3 minutes after, it's True Blue. In fact, what do you say, Dan? This is the view before True Blue.
Yeah, we're the view before True Blue.
And then True, so we get to be like the opening act.
Yeah, we're kind of like the opening act.
We're like the Smothers Brothers to Sonny and Cher.
We're just praying we don't get a red light.
Yeah, that's true. I have great guys in the studio today with me. Army Brad is here, along with Father Tattoo producing the show, and then, of course, Bob Monster at the Cat in the Hat. And you had a question for our guest, who is Steve and A.B. Nelms, who are missionaries in Zambia, and their website is givelifeproject.com.
Yeah, it's actually a comment, and I do have other questions, but you were talking about the compassion problem, which is known as compassion fatigue. And you go down there with the best of intentions and love for people, and what happens is there's so much, and there's so much around you that it's overwhelming. You know, it's not an isolated thing, like you were explaining, that it was everywhere. And their whole way of dealing with life and death is so much different than ours that it's easy to become fatigued. You don't lose your compassion, you just become fatigued.
Yeah.
And you have to step back, you know, and get that back again.
Maybe too, it happens that maybe subconsciously something kind of shuts off or something like that. You know, kind of you put up a barrier or a wall. You know, I think that happens.
Yeah, and I was in Ecuador, Quito, years ago, and I realized that, and there was similar situations where you had children that were just in the streets playing and would get run over, and you just couldn't understand that, and that bothered me when I came back, and actually, you know, had dreams about that horror, and and so I hear you. I know what you're saying. I guess one of my other questions was that how does the country do they welcome you, and do they welcome you as missionaries, or do they welcome you as teachers, and that's going to help the country in a different way?
They are welcoming. Zambia is very open. I mean, in a way, well, they love Americans, for one. Why? Because Americans or American agencies do so much. I don't know if it's a love that's pure all the time, or if it's just a love of the gifts. In general, though, Zambians are very peaceful people as well, so they don't have a lot of expressed ill will. It's more compressed and then comes out in different ways, I think. But they do welcome and accept us and what we're trying to do. And
now, what do you live in? Compare it to a home in Des Moines.
We live in a home, but it would be like a really, really old home where your floor doesn't really match, and it's not really that beautiful. Really old, but
it
it's
is beautiful
still
at the same
home,
time. Yeah.
You know, and if we compare it to the houses that are really close by, it's a home, and we have a wall. Right, it's just really nice.
We can put it into perspective because when we first moved there, we did not live in this home. When we first moved there, we moved into a house. It was plenty big for our family, but it had no water. So we literally for 4 months had to go every day and pump water from a borehole for the house. I mean, that's taxing. No water, no gate or anything around it, no grass.
No indoor plumbing?
Well, it did have indoor plumbing, but no water, so it's kind of...
Well, we had water every morning for a couple of hours.
6 a.m. to 8 a.m.
You know, break out the buckets and but when you think about it, I mean, when you don't think about it, water, you use water for everything. You know, the bathroom, cooking, just everything. You just open up the tap, you know, and that's really hard not to have that.
I can tell you how amazing she is. We had no water and two not newborns, but young children in diapers, cloth diapers. And she's washing by hand cloth diapers with no water. You can imagine.
Well, not for long because I did request a washing machine.
And no longer cloth diapers. But I mean, just to give you an idea, it wasn't easy when we first moved there. And then there was what happened is there was another mission organization in that little town who moved out of the town. And so they had this house that they had been developing for like 15 years. And we said, okay, we glad to move in there. Everything's done. It has grass and water and avocado trees. And this is like...
it was an old home.
A dream come true for us. So we'll gladly move in. So we did, and that was great because it allowed us to kind of focus on what we went over there to do, which was not try to worry about water and
not struggling yourself. And is that the biggest house in the village?
No, not the biggest. One of the probably better put together, but that's because it was developed by an outsider. So
do you have to buy that house, or
we need to buy that house? It's for sale, or else they're going to rent it to somebody else. But to buy that house, I need to raise some money. So that's kind of something we're trying to do.
Which is one of the reasons I'm having them on today. GiveLifeProject.com. That's the website you can go to, and it takes money. I mean, you got to have the juice to make this thing happen. Whether you're in Zambia or you're in Ankeny or you're in Boone, it doesn't matter. God gives us money, and remember, it's His money. It's not yours. Which took me a long time to figure out. But it's not my money. So when I say, well, I'll give God blank back, that's ridiculous. That's like telling your mom and dad the grocery list that you want for dinner when you don't have any way to pay for it. So for heaven's sake, go to their website, look at the pictures. Amy did all the pictures. And consider an extra gift this month. GiveLifeProject.com. All right, now what time is it? We got a couple minutes. Personal question. How'd you meet?
We met at a Starbucks, actually. It was right after a church youth thing, young adults thing. And
in Florida?
In Florida, yeah. And he actually beelined right towards me because he says to the day that he knew he was going to marry me.
I did.
So he was very rude to everybody else, and he just came and introduced himself to me. And then 2 days later, he had the audacity to call me, and I never gave him my phone number. So he basically stalked me into marriage.
And
really.
that worked for me.
Stalked
Here we are.
That's the term I was going to use.
Yeah.
That worked. Since then I did a lot of counseling with young adults, and I said, listen, if you do something like that, it's only going to go one of two ways.
Yeah.
Either you're going to marry her, or you're going to never speak to her again. I mean, that's kind of the two directions.
You thought he was
and it could involve a restraining order.
And so your first impression of him was arrogant?
Yeah, a little bit.
No,
but
not
then,
arrogant. Let's not use that word.
Okay, nerdy maybe.
Oh,
but
nerdy.
Let's go back to arrogant.
She knows it. Yeah, let's go back to arrogant. She knows it was love at first sight for me, but for her it was just.
No, I appreciated
this guy's
the boldness.
crazy, and we'll
I
see
did because usually guys are beat around the bush, try to be your friend. No, and he just actually called me and said, "You know what? I'm not calling you as a pastor or anything. I just want to pursue you." And I said, "Awesome, I like that."
Okay, you like to be pursued.
That's right.
Yeah, so you with her was a microwave love affair, and her with him was a crock pot.
That's a good way to
Is
put
that
it.
fair? Is that a fair way of putting it?
Yeah.
I like to think it was different for her, but it might be true.
Crock-pot food is really delicious, though, because it just...
is true. It's savory.
Now, what are the names of your three kids?
Emma is our firstborn girl.
Emma.
For Josiah.
Okay.
And Joanna. We call her Joey.
Joanna.
Mm-hmm.
What is that? That sounds like an African name.
Joanna. Originally, we were going to have her in Johannesburg, so we thought that would be appropriate. But
Johanna.
then we had her in Pretoria.
That's kind of a Jewish kind of sound to it too, Johanna.
Yeah,
like that. We like it.
All right, we are going to take our last break, and when we come back, I want to know what the future holds. What wave your magic wand, guys. What are you going to do? What's your epitaph? What are you going to be famous for? I always like people, when you leave this earth, you're going to leave a mark. What's the mark that you hope to leave? And are you on the trail to leave that mark? My guests are Steve and Abby Nelms, Nelms. They are missionaries in Zambia. And you can go to their website at givelifeproject.com and find out what they're all about. They are non-denominational, correct? And if you look at the pictures on the website, Abby took those herself. And there's a couple. There's one. It's like the third picture down with this boy with just this great smile on his face. And you'd think it was staged, but it wasn't. We'll be back in just a minute, live here on The Truth. That's right. the truth. 99.3 KTIA Iowa, powered by WebcastOneLive.com.
From the RE/MAX Real Estate Concept Studios, this is Webcast One Live.
Drug and alcohol addiction slowly steals a person's identity, tearing away pieces of their life little by little until one day it seems like the hope of a happy future is gone and there's no chance of getting it back. Here at St. Gregory Retreat Centers, we can assure you that there is hope. Our unique approach to recovery begins with the understanding that the dysfunction and damage caused by addiction can be overcome, not just dealt with. Don't let another day go by. Call St. Gregory today.
It's like they want to get hit.
Need a body shop?
Minor Wreck Express saves you time and money.
If Tom Coates from Consumer Credit of America was your personal webmaster, Tom would filter out all bad debt emails. If Tom was your mailman, you'd never get any debt reduction junk mail. If Tom Coates was a lineman, he'd block any phone calls offering to reduce your credit card debt.
Hi, I'm Tom Coates with Consumer Credit of America, and we're still your best choice for credit counseling. We're local, we're accountable, and we can do more. You make the call when the time's right for you.
When it comes to competition, there really is none for Consumer Credit of America.
Come on now, let's reason together. The phone lines are open, and it's your voice we want to hear. So call 855-244-0077. Now, here's J. Michael McCoy.
10 before the top in the Salem Radio Network news, and then at a little bit after 4 o'clock, we'll, of course, have Pastor Michael Mudloff along with Chris Roloff on the program True Blue, which is our brand new program that runs from 4 to 4:30 this afternoon. So we appreciate you sticking around and taking the time to listen. Bob Montserrat, the Cat in the Hat, watching the chat. Information on the chat. If you'd like to set up a donation for these folks, missionaries, they don't get federal grants, folks. The government takes it way too seriously on this separation of church and state stuff. So the only place they get support from is you, and they're non-denominational. So they're not getting any checks from the Presbyterians or the Lutherans or the Mormons or the Catholics or any of those people. So it's up to you. And they've got a good website to tell you about what they're doing so you'll understand why they're there. Army Brad in the studio today along with Father Tattoo, who's in the production studio. Steve and Abby Nelms, Nelms, missionaries in Zambia, GiveLifeProject.com. So wave your magic wand. And where would you like the two of you to be? Let's say the kids are all gone. So it's 18 years. Wow. What are you doing? Or are you going to just keep having litters of kids so you always have kids?
We said 8 before we had any, but now that number has gone down. Where will we be? You tell me. What do you think?
Well, I don't know. Our vision is supposed to be international. You know, when we thought of this, we didn't just want to stay in Zambia. We kind of had a vision for the world, and you know, that's kind of big for us. But God is big, so we just are still going to dream it until He closes that door. Yeah. And I think that once we establish a self-sustaining
model
in Zambia, in the village where we are, we'll possibly keep on doing that wherever the Lord leads. We like South America. We like Asia. Mm-hmm. You know.
Yeah, one thing that's really happened as going to Zambia is we went there full well knowing that we knew nothing about what we were going to do. Mm-hmm. You know, you go as a missionary to a place and, you know, you have a Bible college degree. And then you go there and you find out that really what you needed a degree in was farming and development and psychology and
nursing,
and education and all these other things. And so we went there kind of with just an open heart, just say, okay, God, what do you want to show us about development? And what he showed us is that really it's a process. It's an internal process. Development is something that we were created to do. We like to say it's like when you have a baby. When we had a baby, we've had 3. The thing is, we don't make the baby grow. God created the baby to grow. We provide the environment for the baby to grow. So if we provide the right environment, the baby will naturally grow. And we look at mankind the same way, and we look at the person in Africa or India or Asia or South America or America, North America, and guess what we see? We see someone who's made in the image of God. We see someone who has the potential for greatness. And we look at and say, why are they not living that way? Why are they living in poverty or whatnot? And the truth of it is because of sin. This is Satan's attack on God's glory. It's an affront on his greatness. And we feel like the gospel ministry is to see that reversed through the power of the gospel at work in people's lives, not in a religious sense, but in a tangible, real sense. And so what we want to do is develop that in a way to where eventually we can see that model of transformational development being taken into other parts of the world, wherever that be. Personally, for us, we hope it's a Spanish-speaking country because we really desire that. But really, we're open
just really
to whatever.
Wants to eat Spanish food forever.
Yes,
there you
go.
That is what I told her the first time I met her. Is my stomach was Spanish, so
Pickup
hopefully we
line.
can get there someday.
That is a pickup line, isn't it? Yeah,
it worked.
It did. Amazingly.
You talk to me like I'm a 6-year-old again. How do you share the gospel with someone who has no concept of what the gospel is? They don't have any. They've never rejected it. They've never accepted it. It is just, it's new as mayonnaise in a jar.
You want me to answer? We are, we're the hands and feet of Jesus. We go into a relationship intentionally, and we just try to love on them. It's all about love. It's all about serving you. I am going to be Jesus in your life. I'm representative of that. So whatever it takes. I mean, it's time consuming. It's not just here, let's pray a prayer and you're saved. No, it's more than that. We go deep into somebody's life. It takes years, and we just through life discipleship that person just naturally becomes saved. They just know the truth in that way.
One of the biggest problems we have in Zambia is that that's not their situation. Their situation is much like America, where everyone just assumes they are saved, or they would say that they are in some way a Christian or a believer or on the right path. And that's almost in some ways harder because you have to actually get somebody to understand the fallacy of what they believe in the first place and try to get them to really question whether or not they really do believe in order to actually get them to the point of being on the right path, if that makes sense.
Yeah, sure.
It's not just people who've never heard.
Yeah, one of the questions we like to ask on this program is why you were a Christian. And the most typical answer is, well, I was raised in the church, and I went to church every day, and I strayed away a little bit when I was hanging around in college, but then it just kind of happens, and that's not the right answer.
We're Christians, amazingly, because God called us to be part of this work He's doing, and because He, before we were ever even a thought, saw us with creative potential. I think God, I think Ephesians 2:10 says we are His workmanship, created in Christ Jesus unto good works, preordained that we should walk in them. And I think that's what's so amazing. We're a Christian, because of the love of Jesus Christ, but also more than that, because I think God wants us to be part of His big picture. And I think that's what we get really excited about too.
What do you get sad about?
I might not be a good one to answer this because I'll probably cry, but just that people are they don't see it, just when people don't understand what it means.
Or they're without hope. A lot of people without hope in the world, not hope in this world or in the life to come. We like to say there's people who are just existing. They're not living, they're existing. And I don't think God created us to exist. I think there's so much more than that. And so that breaks us. That's something that reminds us and keeps us broken, is that's not the way it's supposed to be, I
And you're there to try to show the way it's supposed to be.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
God bless you both.
Thank you.
Thanks for doing the work you do. Stay in touch with us.
Yeah.
Let us know when you pile back into Iowa. We'd like to hear back from you.
Thank you.
Yeah, we will.
We'll all, except Father Tattoo, we'll all be here waiting for you because Father Tattoo's on the road to big stardom, big radio, national stardom.
Well, hopefully he'll take us with him. Then.
Yeah, that'd be nice. All right, my guests today have been Steve and A.B. Nelms, NELMS, and it's GiveLifeProject.com. Check them out. Support them if your heart tells you to do so. And meanwhile, we appreciate you listening. Salem Radio Network News next, and then The True Blue, starring Pastor Michael Mudloff, here on the Truth Network, 99.3 KTIA, Iowa, powered by WebcastOneLive.com. Go ahead and go. Pray now, okay? Just say a prayer.